Welcome to the Armored Combat Escalation Podcast, number 8. Today is Monday, December 15th, 2014, and I am your host, Brandon, also known as Cattra, Kell, and with me today I am joined by a good number of people. We have other unit leader, Adam O.
Hello.
We have Shimmering Sword, Thunderheart, Sinister Socks, Tyrkron, sorry, my bad. Blake and Janestown, and Finring just hopped into the channel as well. They're all joining me today. Of course, more people are always welcome to join us. So news in the unit, of course, Community Warfare has launched. So if you need an invite to ACES for faction and whatnot, hop on MWO. Anybody who is a member can pretty much invite people into the faction to get them going. Again, that'll probably change some point in the future. Not sure when yet, or maybe we'll just keep that as a regular thing. Who knows? And I'm going to hand it over to Adam. He's got a bunch of officer memos, apparently. So take it away, Adam.
All right. Just a reminder to all unit leaders and some of the Mavericks. I think some of you guys also have these permissions on the website. You need to keep the calendar on the website updated with practices and other items that are going on. Also keep Twitter and Facebook updated. Often I'm the only one that does this, and if I'm gone, no one knows what's happening anymore because none of the proper information is input on the website. Also keep the unit news on the front page of the website updated. Any officer can do that through the forums. It's just under unit news. Use the mass email system. I know some of the Mavericks have asked about it, but we have 12 officers, and counting me, that can do this already. And so far, I think I'm the only one that has. So all you other Kings and Aces need to use that mass email system. I have put up a tutorial in the officer section a month ago, maybe more, on how to do that. We also need the Maverick icon changed on the website. Neither Brandon nor I actually know how to do that. I think it's a little more in-depth in possibly the BBS side of things. I'm not sure. Also, just so everyone knows, a lot of people travel during the holidays. So December, January, you might see a lot of people MIA. I myself will be gone from December 18th to January 4th. I have about 2,400 miles to drive total, so you might see me go dark for a while. That should be it.
Excellent. Thank you, Adam. So aside from that, of course, we had a promotion. Aside from the ones that I announced last podcast, we had another promotion. Shimmering Sword has been brought up to King status, meaning he's going to be helping leading drops and that sort of thing during Community Warfare. So congratulations, Shimmering.
Thank you.
On another side note, Bombadil and Phil are back into the unit. So welcome back, guys. They are being reinstated as Jacks. So congratulations to them as well. I know Darren personally has been in our Community Warfare drops recently, so it's always good to see them back into the unit.
Yeah, so is Phil. He's been dropping with us several times.
Excellent.
Yeah, they've even recorded a couple of the drops that we did. So I know one of the matches from last night has already been put up on their YouTube channel for NGNG. So keep on the lookout for that and for any others.
That's going to be huge for us as well, as far as getting word of mouth and that sort of thing, because that's a huge platform we got. So if you know they're recording or something like that, maybe be a little bit mindful of comms. I know we're pretty laid back for ourselves personally, but if we are on comms and they're with us and they're recording or streaming or something like that, just be a little bit more mindful than usual. It's the only thing I want to say there. So let's...
Yeah,
go ahead.
They kind of sprung that on us after the match. Bombadil did not tell us that he was actually recording the match until it was over. So I've requested that if they are going to be recording something, which we don't mind them doing, they at least have something up that says that they're recording, so that people in the chat know they're being recorded and they should be tactful about what they say.
Yeah, some of us old corpsmen have kind of a colorful language.
At least to try to keep things professional, you know? Like, keep the language to a minimum, actually call out tactics, and be respectful in general. Just try to keep things professional. It's just like in a work environment.
All right, so let's move into the actual general talk of everything. Make sure you X up in the chat, and I'll call upon you for thoughts and opinions and everything like that. So let's get to the big one, which is the launch of Community Warfare really early. What is everybody's thoughts about Community Warfare dropping early rather than tomorrow? I think it's tomorrow was supposed to come out. Go ahead there, Tierkron.
Oh, it is absolutely wonderful. I was a little worried at first that things would be broken when it launched, but it's there are some bugs. I won't deny that, but for the most part, if when you have a match, they are just absolute blasts. It doesn't matter if you're going up against a fully organized 12-man or a random group of players. Either situation can be a lot of enjoyment for any team. I'm I'm very hopeful for the future of this as we get more maps in and they experiment more and possibly expand it out to be even bigger than it already is. I am looking forward to optimization of the maps and modes we in the mode that we do have, considering I know a number of aces have complained that they can't do community warfare drops because their frame rates just slow down way too much for them to be able to properly play. So, but beyond that, I'm very hopeful. I enjoyed a great deal.
Go
ahead there, Blake.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, the thing about community warfare coming out early is it's a good it was pretty great that it came out early. It's just that me personally, I wouldn't really mind it if it came like tomorrow. Tomorrow was the release date because it's like it's the thing we've been waiting for since what, closed beta? But yeah, anyways, the thing about community warfare is that it's enjoyable. It really is. And the thing is that it needs like a little bit more work because it's like sometimes it's mostly one-sided because like I dropped in community warfare yesterday, like actually yesterday and the day before, I believe. And the thing about it is that if you're if you're attacking, you're at a severe disadvantage if your team is not well organized because the thing is that I did an experiment on it and I dropped solo in community warfare. I mean, yeah, it does take forever because it'll take you like 7, 8, or 9 minutes at most before you can get a match. And most of the time, you're always on the attacking side. And when you're attacking, chances are you're going to be put in with random people. But well, here's my story. When I dropped today, 3 times in a row, I was always dropped with pugs, which is to be expected, right? But then on the other side, it's always organized. Like I fought because I just dropped with Clan Ghostbear International 3 times in a row, and we just got utterly annihilated because there was just like no coordination on our part, no strategy, nothing. It was just pick a side, go and keep going that way until you get far enough that you actually kill like 9 or 10 mechs. But this is community warfare. Even though you have the luxury of 4 lives, having 4 lives doesn't mean you can be more reckless. You still have to coordinate because if you kill one player, he's going to be back with a fresher mech, and you're still going to be dented. So yeah, I just had to rant out. But other than that, this community warfare has been pretty good. I mean, there were some bugs that we encountered, but it was okay. I mean, it's nothing a little patch could fix. I mean, I'm sure there's gonna be more hot fixes tomorrow or anything like that, but yeah, that's my 2 cents on it. And good job, PGI.
Finring?
Yeah, well, I'm glad they dropped it earlier. You know, it's like finding a $20 bill in your jacket. You didn't know it was there. I love it when they spring stuff early, and I really think it's going to breathe new life into this game. Because for me, it was starting to feel a little stale. But from that first drop, man, it is just so much fun. And yeah, you got to be really coordinated. There's definitely a discrepancy when it comes to attacking and defending. If you're an attacker, you have to be well coordinated. Even if it's, say, pugs on pugs, the defenders have a big advantage because without really good coordination to get back there and do some damage on the generator, it's practically impossible to win in a pug group on attack, I think. But that being said, I'm sure they're going to work out all that stuff. And yeah, I love it. It's fun. I can't wait to see where it goes moving forward.
Hell's Dog?
I think it was an awesome idea. Releasing it early, I think, gives everyone this sense that they know it's an alpha. Still, because I think if they released it on time, everyone would have been like, "Oh, this thing isn't working," and they'd have been all a bit angry about it. But because it was released a bit early, I think they're more sympathetic to it. Plus, I think it's going to help them in the long run. It's going to help the creators make it better because they've worked out the server capacity really early. So that's my 2 cents anyway.
And Thunderheart?
It was a great gift, basically. All software, all new releases have bugs in it, but to give it early, just like they did the King Crabs was early. I'm having fun with both. The game for me it's just like it is. It's been a great game from the beginning, and they've been working out, and it's been evolving into something even more enjoyable. And now we're excited about this, and it just lends to the time of year it is that they release something early, and we're able to get into those mechs that we were looking forward to getting, like the King Crab, and also the Community Warfare releasing early. It was just great timing because we all have some off time now, and we can sit down and we can play it. It has its little quirks, but the direction they're going in, we all appreciate it. Appreciate the hard work that they put into it. Great looking game though. Oh man. But that's my 2 cents.
I think I agree with most people here saying that it's pretty good that it dropped early rather than maybe tomorrow or anything like that. The reason being is that it gives them time to, before they go on Christmas break, get some hot patches out and fixes and stuff like that for stuff that might need fixed or changed and that sort of thing, without having to quickly panic push things out and rather get that extra week of work done in a much bigger testing environment than what they were using. So I think the fact that it dropped early, that it's stable and that there's not a whole lot broken with it. I mean, there's things that are broken with it, don't get me wrong. But it's workable, it's usable, that sort of thing. I think that's really good and everything like that. But let's move on to our next topic, which again still stays within community warfare, but let's talk about Boreal Vault and Sulphurous Rift, the 2 new maps which dropped with community warfare. What are your guys' thoughts on these 2 new maps and everything about them? Go ahead there, Tirkron.
I have to say I like Boreal Vault a little bit better for Sulphurous Rift. I think Boreal is better for the defenders, only having the 2 gates and having them rather close by. It's a little bit trickier for the defenders, but for the attackers. But the attackers do have some advantages in that there is some. Once you get through the gates, there is cover that you can advance through and push straight up to the generator. Sulphurous Rift, defenders have a bit harder time on it, it seems, what with the 3 gates to cover instead. The the winding nature of two of those advances towards those gates makes it harder to keep track of your opponent, of the attacker. Also, just how close the generator is in proximity to all of the gates, it's much easier for an attacker to get to that generator and start inflicting damage and just blast right past the defenders on that map. I kind of would like to see the gates maybe repositioned out a little bit farther on it, just to give the defenders a bit better of a fighting chance. But as it stands right now, I would say Boreal Vault is my preferred map.
Go ahead there, Finring.
Well, I think Tychron pretty much just said everything I was going to say, especially about the caustic map. It's just there's not enough room inside that base. It's really, really hard to defend. Like you said, the distance between the gates and the generator is just way too small, and there's a ton of cover through those silos that you can practically get right in front of it before you have to break any kind of cover. So I think that's my only big gripe. The Alpine version one, I like. I think it gives, when you get up close, there's enough buildings and stuff that you can turn it into a little bit of a brawl. But of course, coming in, you got lots of room for long range. And that may have been what they were thinking, because obviously the Alpine version suits itself a little more to long range combat, and the Caustic one is more suited for brawling. So they may have had that in mind. But I do think the Caustic one needs a little more room in the base for the defenders.
And go ahead there, Thunder.
I the last part of Finnering's statement, I appreciate about it because they are different. I don't want to see the same scenario on each map. I like the difference in it, but I also would like to see totally different scenarios where you're an attack scenario. The maps look great. No, I love the turrets. Because as a light, I tried to sneak by everybody and get to the generator myself. One time, I got shot to pieces. Love that. Yeah, it's not easy to get to. This particular part of the game is all about teamwork. And if you're going to be a lone person or try to do it by yourself, you're going to get quickly killed or you're going to get wiped out. So the overall idea of it's really nice, really solid. I like it different. I would like to see more different scenarios, and instead of just attack and defend, or just attack and defend with different situations. But everything looks so far right now. I love the artwork. I love the sulfur flats. It looks pretty nice. It's and it's refreshing because it's new. They're totally different, than when we play in the public drops. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it comes down, at least my personal opinion as well, is I prefer Boreal over Sulfur. Sulfur's is fun, don't get me wrong, if you're defending and attacking, stuff like that, and setting up. It's a lot more strategy to Sulfur, but I find the best fights and the best pushes, or at least the most fun, in my opinion, always happen on Boreal, because once you break through that first gate, all hell just breaks loose because it's just nothing but a wide open brawl, basically. It just becomes a huge open brawl area where the attackers are trying to push through the defenders and the defenders just keep coming in and defending. Whereas with Sulphurous Rift, I know as far as tactics and stuff like that, I know for us, whenever we get Sulphurous Rift, it's just ball up, push. Once you get past the walls, it's just hit the generator, so we bring it down to 10% health. We brawl, get our score up, make them C-bills, and then die, and then throw basically the next two waves out the window, do whatever we want with them, and then the last one going for the kill, because once those walls come down, there's not enough space to have that brawl. It's basically just rush. And, I mean, that can be fun. It is fun sometimes, but it's just, I find Boreal a lot more enjoyable, so that's just my 2 cents on the maps and stuff like that. But let's move on to the game mode itself, the actual invasion game mode, the dropships, everything like that. What was your initial thoughts when those dropships dropped you into the map? Let's get some feedback on that. Go ahead there, Thunder.
I got shot. I got too close to the enemy dropship. The initial dropship and the sound and everything is really great. But even when you go, if you're on the attack and you're attacking the planetary gun, if you get too close to their dropship, it's gonna lay you to waste because you're too close. And I got shot to pieces one time because I was just a bit too close to them. So, but the overall idea of it is really cool. The getting ready to drop and then it drops you and you see the ship take off and just sped away. That's pretty exciting. That was a good thought behind that.
Hell's Dog?
I was like, wow, this is what I have been waiting for. Coming in a dropship, dropping out the dropship. Most epic feeling ever out of any mech game that's ever been out. And as for the scenarios, I think they're unique, they're awesome. Being able to defend something is brilliant. Bringing tactics into the game, bringing a bit more unification between unit. Being able to use tactics a bit more, that's awesome. I'd like to see what other type of game modes they're looking towards. They've just completely blown me away with this, especially seeing them flying on the enemy side when you see them come down out of space, and then you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be staring at this, it's going to shoot me. Then you see it fly off back into space is unbelievable. Yeah, I was super excited for the first one. After a while, I guess, yeah, you've seen it a few times, but, well, that's my deck.
Go ahead there, Blake.
When I first saw this fact that you started in a dropship, it was exciting. I mean, it looked pretty realistic too. Even though I usually play on the lowest settings because my computer can't really handle it, I'd say it's a good addition. It's a really good addition to everything that's community warfare is part of. And I fold.
Tierkron?
I absolutely love the drop ships. I love getting dropped by them, seeing them come in and with depositing friendly reinforcements. That's that it's when you're getting hammered and you just see those those drop ships come in and dropping a few mechs to back you up to help defend that generator. You just get this a boost to your morale of like, okay, it's not as bad as a scenario as we thought it was. We can still pull this out. And seeing the enemy dropships come and taking damage from them, it's so great. It's so helpful for the immersion. It's actually funny. People will get shot by the dropships, and they're so into the game that they automatically start firing back at the dropships, even though they realistically cannot damage them in game. People are just they're just so into it that they don't care that they might not actually be able to damage them. They're taking fire, so they want to fire back. It's wonderful.
Now, I know as far as I guess this kind of goes under the game type and as well as the maps a little bit, but I know one of the biggest things people have been mentioning is how it doesn't make sense for defenders to come in on drop ships, but rather, would you rather be coming in on I guess this is the question to you guys. Would you rather be coming in on a drop ship, or would you rather spawn in a hangar, like underground or something like that, and have to walk out onto the battlefield if you're the defender? Go ahead there, Tierkron.
Yeah, if you're a defender, I would say it'd be kind of nice to have something different than the dropship. The hangar idea, an elevator that suddenly shoots you up, kind of Evangelion style, maybe to the surface, would I think would be a little bit better. But that said, there's the damage factor of the drop ship that helps. I mean, you don't want an overly aggressive attacker to get in there and then just spawn camp you while everyone keeps popping up out of the hangar without taking any damage. You'd easily have a defending team cut to pieces they'd be destroyed before they even had a chance to fire back. There'd be nothing to deter attackers from rushing in like that. So having the drop shift there with the large lasers and the medium lasers to, provide cover does help a bit there. So they'd have to come up with something that could take its place in that sense.
Go ahead there, Blake.
As Cattra mentioned, yeah, like when you're going on the offensive, yeah, it would make sense to come in at a dropship. But the thing about it is that while on the defense, I'd say yeah, but then again, it's like, how would you implement it? Like, how would that work? It's like you have a hangar, yeah, sure, but what's weird about it is how do you animate it? Like, how would you like work that out? Do you like, is it like sealed off where it just like you have a blast door that just opens and you just walk out, or what's up? It's like, it's kind of interesting how how it would be designed, and that's what I'm confused about. But yeah, it seems pretty good. Like I would, but me personally, if it came for, it would depend on which side I'm on. If I'm on offense, then of course I'd rather be in a drop ship. But if on defense, that would depend.
Go ahead there, Shimmering.
It's definitely a bit weird that defenders coming on dropships, but at the same time, I mean, they look awesome no matter what side they're dropping from, and we've mentioned the weapons on them help. Defenders could be responding to an attack, and they're not based on that base. They have to come in on dropships, so it's not like it's completely out of it can make some sense. But yeah, I think like having a mech bay gantry or something that raises you out of the ground, and maybe some turrets could come up with you, but the dropship coming in high definitely has its advantage with the weapons. So kind of either way on it. I mean, it's more work, and it would look a little more realistic if we came out of ground-based installations, but we'll see where it goes. I have a feeling any change like that is going to be a long off project for PGI.
Go ahead there, Janestown.
Actually, I was going to say the same thing about turrets coming up with you in an elevator. If they wanted to implement something like an alternative to dropships for the defender, you could easily use that to even adjust some of the imbalance with the attacker defender game mode right now. I mean, you could have something starts to repair the generator a little bit after a certain amount of time, and that would make it more difficult for you to be able to just Zerg in and deal a bunch of damage and then Zerg in a second time and destroy it.
Go ahead there, main man.
Yeah, I don't see any problems with defenders coming in with dropship, because army bases are not like all over. They are usually centered. So how do you move a mech 30, 40, 50 miles in a short time? You use a dropship even, inside your own planet.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand, like, because I know PGI has talked about maybe making maps specific for certain worlds and stuff like that. So maybe if they ever unlock capitals and it has some sort of special map or something like that, maybe the defenders on the capital world would be coming out of a hangar. That would be cool. But as of right now, I don't really see that changing. I don't have a problem with coming in on the dropships either, mainly because I find they act as Tierkron was saying, like a anti-camping tool. So you just don't get in. I mean, there is still ways to camp. We've done it, definitely. There is still ways to camp the dropships and stuff like that. But it is a big, I want to say, motivator not to sit around too long in one spot. Let's move on to... Oh, go ahead, Tierkron.
I would just like to say that when ACES has camped a spawn, it's usually at the end of the game when there are 8 or less mechs remaining on the enemy team. We've never tried to do it at the beginning of a match. I think that'd be too dangerous of a tactic to try. You're putting way too much at risk, especially if you're the defenders, because you're that far out. You still are going against a very fresh team, it'd be very easy to suddenly lose control of the situation, have someone blast past you, and you're too far out to make a difference. You're basically giving them a free run at the generator. So camping these spawns, at least from the ACES point of view so far, has been only to do it at the very end when you know you're going to win as it stands, because there's just not enough enemy left to make a difference.
Let's move on to balance and gameplay and everything like that, and tactics used in community warfare. Of course, we have the very famous and well-known Zerg Rush tactic, which is very popular amongst many people. But I'm just wondering, I mean, is there really a way to counter the Zerg Rush right now, or is it kind of just the king? Is it the way that it has to be there? I'm going to go ahead and say, go ahead, Shimmering Sword first.
Woo! Yeah, Zerg Rush, I mean, in the hands of a skilled, coordinated team right now has a technical 100% success rate. So it's a weird situation where uncoordinated teams complain that attackers cannot win, and skilled teams, could argue that attackers cannot lose. I think the way balance works is that defenders have like a built-in advantage, but attackers, yeah, hot mic's pretty there we go. Attackers, the attacker tactics have far more weight than the defender's tactics. So if both teams go in not trying, the defenders will win. If both teams have roughly the same level of skill and planning, the attackers will win. So the moment the attackers start bringing some coordination, the defense team is required to really step it up. That's, it's going to be really tricky for PGI to balance this out because of the way that works. I mean, it's not the map that entirely decides things right now. It's the skills of the teams.
Go ahead there, Blake.
The Zerg Rush may be a popular strategy, but here's the thing. There's no such thing as a strategy that's invulnerable or invincible to say. Whenever there is a way you could counter it, and the best way to counter that is it's the same tactic that we've used ever since we were doing Merrick, and that is aim for the legs. You take out a mech's legs, as soon as you leg one mech, you go on to the next one, and then you just keep doing it until you leg every single person that's going for the generator. It works. So that's the best way you could counter it, in my opinion. I mean, there may be others, but for right now, you just gotta bob and weave. It just depends on your ability to bob and weave when you're running to the generator, because at the end of the day, it's still like, well, it's still like the same way. It's just like it's just what we practiced on. But it's worked for us, and I mean, there's no guarantees, but hey, that's the best way to go for now, because you can't really shoot a mech that's going an average of 152 kph past you when you're focused on long range combat or short range. But then again, afterwards, yeah, it mostly depends on gunnery, and it just depends on gunnery skills and the speed of the mechs and what mech you're in, as well as the coordination. And that's my 2 cents.
Go ahead there, Tikron.
I kind of have to disagree a little bit with Blake. The leg strategy does work sometimes, but against a very determined team, it is not a foolproof solution to the Zerg Rush. We have shut down Zerg Rushes. The problem is often that we will expend ourselves on the first 2 rushes, and then the third one eventually will make it through because we're either beat to hell, we either don't have enough firepower as it is to slow down that third rush, or we're too spread out at that point, and we're too concentrated on one side of the base to be able to respond quickly enough. So it is possible to shut down the Zerg rush if there's only one or two, but when you're seeing three of them, it becomes almost inevitable that that rush is going to get through and destroy the generator. It is a very effective tactic. It's everyone's right now, I believe, is looking for hard counters to it. Some people are finding boating streaks will help. I know we've started seeing a lot more Stormcrow streak boats out there, but even that, depending on the map, they aren't even, they're not able to kill enough light mechs fast enough to fully blunt a hardcore Zerg push.
Go ahead there, Hell's Dog.
One thing that I've noticed with the Zerg rushing sort of comes into the game mode as well. Is when you drop and you're defending and you're expecting to defend, and then suddenly it puts you on a counter attack, or when you're assaulting, it's fine because you've got your mechs all loaded up. But then you think, oh, we're going to defend the next one. And you set all your mechs up, defend, and you find out you're doing a counter attack. Then sort of counters what you were thinking. So you start building these mech decks that sort of doing a bit of both, if you get what I mean. Like you're trying to do a bit of Omni. Like you're trying to set your deck up so that in case you're attacking or in case you're defending. The Zerg rush is working because you haven't got the mechs to deal damage in that sort of scenario in case you've got to be running fast. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, I get your idea. You got to kind of make a balanced drop deck because right now you don't really know what you're dropping into, as far as being a defender or an attacker.
Yeah. So Zerg rush works because you can't counter it because you can't make your fleet drop for defending. That's me done.
I have to disagree a little bit with that. A number of us who have led drops have noticed that it does tell you what you're going to be doing before you drop. As soon as you have your lances load in, it usually tells you if you are defending, if you're counterattacking, if you're attacking, and you have anywhere from 5 minutes to 1 minute to switch mechs around. That said, Hell's Dog does have something of a point because you can only switch a mech out and switch one in usually in that time. You can't drop out and rearrange your modules, so you really do have to have a couple alternative mechs already set up if you're looking to switch mechs out because you know you're going to have to change your strategy and tactics. But as it is, there is some idea before you go in of exactly what you're going to be doing, so there's no reason to be caught completely unaware of it.
So you're saying that basically along the lines, or what I'm getting from people here along the lines, is that the strategy right now kind of encourages zerging. Is this, would you say, a combination of like map and game type of thing, or what would you guys bring in or implement to kind of counter this encouraging of zerg kiki style rushing? Go ahead there, Tierkron.
The generator needs to have a bit more protection, I think. Like some sort of blast shield that the enemy has to get rid of first. Be it that they have to, like with the gates, they have to destroy another generator or two other generators to lower that blast shield and make the generator vulnerable to attack. Maybe I wouldn't say add more turrets because I think the turrets that you have surrounding it right now with double large lasers are pretty effective, even against, a fast Zerg rush and even a heavier Zerg rush. maybe adding one or two more gates that an enemy has to get past first, rather than a single line of defense. You have two lines of defense in that regard, as most medieval castles and medieval forts had. You didn't have a single wall. You usually had overlapping walls before you got to the main armory, storage area that, where all of your most vulnerable things were held. So that might be a way to stop it, because you force the attacker to concentrate on more than one objective if they were pushing hard, giving the defenders more time to regroup and to launch an assault to stop the rush. I Beyond that, though, I don't know exactly what else you might be able to implement realistically in that sense.
Yeah, the only thing I could really think of as far as how it's currently set up and done is having some sort of like anti-back cap protection. So like having to take out, for example, on Boreal, like both generators before you're able to hurt the main generator. So you can't just go and push them through. And Rift, having to destroy two of them out of the three before you can go, something like that. But then again, I'm not sure how that would really play out. I'd like to see it maybe up on the test servers or something like that before it's implemented. Go ahead there, Tiergron.
The only problem with that idea, Cattra, of destroying the gate generators in order to make the main generator vulnerable is it's just way too easy to destroy those gate generators. The way they're almost on each map, they're pretty exposed. On Sulphurous Rift, there's two that you don't even have to be up on the ramp to shoot them. The ones on Boreal are a little bit better protected, but still, once you get a coordinated lance of mechs up on that ramp, whose sole function is to destroy that generator, it's pretty easy for them to do so. And if you've got a team that knows what it's doing, they're going to drop those generators fairly quickly. So I really think there needs to be a backup generator somewhere that's protected, that is the one that you have to take out first before you can take out the main generator.
Let's move on to our final topic here. Let's talk about the persistent map, the Innersphere global map, factions, and finding matches. And of course, right now, if you go along the clan, or actually, let's throw in some clan Innersphere balance in there as well. Let's open up first with that one. How is everyone finding matches in this game type, Innersphere versus clan, on both attacking and defending? Is it kind of matching up well, or is it one really more overpowered than the other, that sort of thing? Go ahead there, Blake.
Honestly, I think most of the time that when you're trying to find a match, it takes like a long time. Like initially, yes, it's taking like I mentioned before, you when you solo drop compared to like when you're in groups, it takes longer because you're trying to find other players to play with and whatever. And like I already mentioned this before. But and most of the time you're only when you're defending or attack or counter attacking, that's all you're doing because it depends on which faction you pick anyway. See, like us for example, we decided to go with House Davion, and we're basically just only attacking and defend. We're basically just counterattacking and defending, but we're only allowed to use Innersphere mechs. Whereas if we picked a clan faction, we would be able to use only clan mechs. And well, I lost my train of thought there for a second. But on that side, to answer your question, Ketra, I'd say like solo dropping, it takes a long time compared to when you're in a 12-man group. I'm just gonna say that right now.
Go ahead, Shimmering.
Yeah, on clan versus IS balance, I mean, it's still as it was. Clans are more powerful. The only thing, I mean, it was kind of an issue or a factor in regular matchmaking, but clans don't have the light mech rush option, and for every large clan mech you bring in, assault mech size, you're probably forcing yourself to take a clan light. But ultimately, they get the Timberwolf and the Stormcrow, and they can take exclusively that if they want to. The two best mechs in the game, arguably. Um, so any clan team automatically brings an advantage. That said, the game is still decided by team skills. So if you can bring proportionally more skill than the enemy brings their automatic clan mech advantage, you can win. So like I said earlier, the moment attackers coordinate, they get a huge advantage in the game. So coordinated IS teams still have it pretty good against clan defenders, but clan attackers, coordinated, I say it's pretty much a sealed deal. We've stopped clan Zergs, but I think it was a clear case of us really pulling out the coordination and the enemy team kind of just doing a sloppy push. I look forward to if we ever try clans to just see what kind of rolling it is. But yeah, we're doing okay with the inner sphere. It's enjoyable, and if we don't want to fight clans, we can just fight the inner sphere borders.
Go ahead there, Tikron.
As Shimmy said, the clans do have an advantage with the Timberwolf and the Stormcrow. They're two of the best mechs, if not the best mechs in the game right now, just for the type of weaponry they can bring, the amount of armor they can bring, and how quickly they can move for their weight size. They also have a bit of an advantage with the Hellbringer. I mean, you've got the only ECM equipped heavy on the clan side, and if you're doing a push from the clans as attackers, having one or two Hellbringers in there to keep an ECM bubble on your Timberwolves and on your Stormcrows is devastating to the defenders, because if you've brought a large LRM heavy team, you have to re-coordinate. You have to either move mechs in to try to take out those ECMs as quickly as possible. Or you have to have BAP, or you have to be launching UAVs continuously to keep those mechs in range for them. And all that time, that clan push is just advancing. So they do have advantages. I don't think they don't have the same advantages that the IS has in terms of the light mechs, which do help a speedier assault. But the clans do have their own advantages, and their weaponry being able to hit, pretty much from clear across the map on Boreal. We've seen, a adder with 2 ER large reach out and hit someone that's just dropped from the dropship up by the generator and do damage. So they do brings firepower to the game. The other thing is the IS versus IS. It's been rather interesting since the launch, seeing which factions have done what. As we've kind of stated earlier, some of the factions are not fighting one another and focusing solely on the clans. Others are picking at one another and dividing their attention. It seems to be a lot of the large community-based groups are starting to work out alliances and at least non-aggression agreements with one another to focus more on clans and to focus on anyone who dare antagonizes them. It's many of the groups so far, they won't attack a rival faction. They will defend against one, especially if it's a group of pugs that are trying to take a world. But if it's a coordinated group, usually they don't do anything unless they're getting hit by another coordinated group. So it's interesting in that regard. A couple units and factions have not gotten on board with this. Liao is probably the biggest problem for most of at least for Davian. They are constantly poking at Davian, trying to take worlds. Merrick has also kind of begun to do that. Thankfully, though, the Davian units are pretty well coordinated, so as soon as they start seeing Liao and Merrick hit worlds, they are immediately on them like white on rice. They are smacking Merrick and Liao back pretty hard, and they're making them pay for it as well, taking out Merrick and Liao worlds in retaliation. As pretty much smacking Liao. Liao's pretty much gotten the worst of it. They're trying their best to be an annoyance, and they're paying the price.
Now, I think one of the things that, going back a little bit, the fact that I think it was Blake that said dropping in a solo is painful and getting in 12-man. I think that's one of the biggest factors, and hopefully that will change. I think Russ recently said that in the next patch, or maybe a patch after Christmas or something like that, that they're going to allow groups, not just of members and units, but also members of factions. So you're able to start a faction group, and hopefully that will help fill up some of those 12-mans and stuff like that, and battles will happen more often. But I think right now, the persistency of the universe and stuff like that, it's really interesting to see alliances and stuff like that being formed, and coordination going on, especially on like the Outreach, HPG, Reddit, and stuff like that, along the clan borders and that sort of thing. It's actually really fun to see that sort of thing finally happening in MechWarrior Online. I think it's all for the better, and I think it'll be a lot more fun once things get more ironed out and 12-mans become a lot more common, or easier to form at least, and matches will be happening a lot more quicker. I think I'll wrap things up right here. Does anyone have any last words or comments at all? Go ahead there, Tikron.
Oh, back to what Blake had said about it being difficult if you're solo dropping in Community Warfare. I'm hoping that difficulty basically is going to convince most solo players that it's time to start looking for a group. You can get away with solo dropping in regular matches, be it Conquest, Assault, or Skirmish. Community Warfare, though, is a different beast. You really do need to be part of a coordinated group in order to do well in it, it seems. So hopefully most people will take the hint and start looking for groups that fit their play style and fit their personalities. I know ACES has gotten a lot of people interested lately that are looking to us to become to shepherd them and take on new members. So hopefully this is a trend we'll continue to see grow.
All right, so I think I have been told to say one last closing thing before we wrap up the podcast and move into our practice time, more or less. I have been told to remind everyone who has the ability to use the mass email system to do so, or else Adam will be sending you to the motivation platoon. So if you are basically a Maverick or King, please know how to use the mass emailer. We'll be using that and utilizing it a lot more to try to get information out in a more timely manner. So thank you for joining us in the Armored Combat Escalation Service podcast. This has been your host, Brandon, also known as Cattra, Kell, and closing tonight has been Adam, Shimmering Sword, Thunderheart, Sinister Socks, Tierkron, Blake, Hell's Dog, Janes, Lantern, or actually that's Lantan, my bad, Main Man, and Rush 2112. Thank you for listening. Good night.